All right, everybody, let's go ahead and get started. So once again, my name is Kevin Hancock, Director of Solutions here at ExoStar, and I want to thank you for joining me today. Before I jump into the session, just a few housekeeping details. So today's session is scheduled to last 30 minutes. That does include Q&A. Now, you've been muted during today's presentation. However, there were, I believe it's 3 questions that were submitted prior to today's webinar. So I'll go ahead and answer those at the end. I've got them on a slide as part of my deck. If for some reason we do have an outage, just wait for a minute and try to reconnect. You can either refresh your screen or go back to that email you received prior to today's session and use the link in there to rejoin today's session. If at any time you'd like to speak with one of our supply chain experts, or if you have additional questions that you'd like answered, you can reach out to us actually a couple of different ways. You can email us at supplychain@exostar.com, or you can just go to our website, www.exostar.com. There's a chat feature there on every page, and we'd be more than happy to answer your questions that way as well. Additionally, if one of your questions is, will I receive the slide deck from today? The answer is yes. As a follow-up from today's session, you'll receive a copy of the slides in a PDF format, as well as a recording of today's session. So today we're going to talk about managing third-party risk and compliance in the defense supply chain, and really kind of the unique information you may need to gather as part of an industry in the defense industrial base. So 68% of procurement leaders cite supply chain disruptions as their top concern. What we're going to talk about today is really how to make some of those disruptions not self-inflicted because you haven't been keeping track of the cybersecurity requirements that you may have as part of the defense industrial base. In particular, gathering the information about your supply chain and their cybersecurity risk profile and how to keep track of that, make sure it's kept up to date, and do that in an easy, automated way so you don't have to do this as a manual process. The reason this is important is that in your contract agreements that you have today, now if you've got contracts direct with the Department of Defense, these regulations you see along the left, these DFARS clauses, Defense Federal Acquisition Regulations clauses, are part of your overall contract. What you're required to do is flow down these requirements to your supply chain as well. So if you've got subcontractors, you've got them under contract to supply parts, materials, etc., as part of your overall contract. You flow down these requirements to them, and then they also agree to comply with these requirements. In this case, I'm pulling out two, the 7020 and the 7021. These are both really about NIST 800-171. And NIST 800-171 is the standard in which you must agree to house, store, process, and transmit controlled unclassified information. The title of NIST 800-171, SP stands for Special Publication, is how to maintain and secure controlled unclassified information in non-federal systems. The regulation down there that you see for 7021, that clause, that's a new requirement that's coming into play about the cybersecurity maturity model certification requirements. This also has to do with NIST 800-171 and that control of controlled unclassified information, in that rather than just you saying that you adhere to NIST 800-171, a self-attestation, if you will, the cybersecurity maturity model requires that you have a third party come in and assess you once every 3 years that you do still, or you do adhere to those requirements. And then they report back to the Department of Defense on your status. Now, it's more explicit when we start to talk about the next revision of NIST 800-171. Now, the CMMC requirements, because that's what we've talked about so far, require NIST 800-171 R2. But there is a revision 3 that's valid today, not yet in effect by the DoD, but will be at some time. This more explicitly spells out that you need that supply chain risk management plan. You've got to you've got to review and update that risk management plan. As part of this, you're going to be required to ensure that your supply chain also adheres to the requirements that you have as contractual obligations. So this is spelled out today as part of DFAR's flowdowns. It's also being written into those different as well. Now, ExoStar has been in this business for quite a while, and we've been focusing on this risk mitigation for quite a while as well. Many of you today may have received really, I guess, they're forms. They are forms to fill out about your cybersecurity risk from ExoStar customers. These folks are utilizing an application that I'm going to show you today called our supplier management module. This module is sending out those forms to their supply chain to find out their cybersecurity posture so they can adhere to these regulations. That's mitigating their risk of their supply chain being disrupted because they don't adhere to a particular regulation. Now, that's being, if you will, distributed across the ExoStar network by the ExoStar customers. The advantage you get as part of that network is that you really only have to fill out this form once. Once you've done that, when the next organization sends you that form to fill out, it's already going to be pre-populated with the answers you provided, the first time or the time you revised it for the second supplier. Those forms and those answers that you provided are going to be updated. You're going to be requested to fill out or to validate that that information is still the same. If for some reason it's changed, you'll be able to update that. So when you submit it to the new contractor that sent you that information, they'll get the latest information, but all those that you've provided information before will also be notified that you've updated your cyber risk, if you will. This is that whole idea that you see up top there, where it's that connect once, collect once, certify once. That's leveraging the ExoStar network and leveraging that information that you've provided so you can utilize that same information to do this across the board. Now, ExoStar does quite a bit more than just gathering cybersecurity information. And we leverage that same principle, if you will, of collect once, connect once across these different ways we do things. For example, when you join the ExoStar network and you set up your account, you were provided some kind of credential. And that credential either required proofing or it didn't, based on the security requirements of the application that you were accessing and the customer who's providing you that application. So many of you use ExoStar today to reach a number of different supply chain portals out there. You're collaborating around purchase orders, providing feedback on your ability to deliver on a particular product. You're filling out these cybersecurity forms, you're sending that information. All of that is being protected by that identity that you provided to ExoStar, ExoStar's proofing of your identity, and the phishing-resistant tokens and other credentials that were provided to you to get into that. And now you're leveraging that same proofing credential, etc., to not only access, say, HII's supply chain portal, but also get into Boeing's and Raytheon's, Lockheed Martin's, etc. And you may be using that not only to get supply chain portals, but to utilize additional collaboration and sharing tools that are out there. Throughout this process, that information is being protected, encrypted, stored, securely, meeting those NIST 800-171 requirements, etc. And we're not only vetting those organizations, or the individuals, we're also vetting the organizations as well. That builds up that trusted network of SIB suppliers so that everybody can collaborate more smoothly, get up and running more quickly as you join that community and get access to the information that you need to get your business done. Now, ExoStar is a platform with a number of different modules that help throughout the supply chain. To get to this information, many of you log into what's called our Managed Access Gateway. That's that bar on the bottom here where it says Secure Access and Master Data. That's where we're initially bringing your organization into the ExoStar community. We're vetting that organization. We're ensuring those organizations aren't on a denied parties list. We're updating that constantly and reaffirming that all the time. Those organizations that are leveraging our supplier management module are gathering additional information about their suppliers. They're vetting them a little more deeply. They're ensuring that they meet their cybersecurity requirements. They're ensuring that they adhere to NIST 800-171 and things like that. They're gathering additional information, and then they're granting them access to those other applications. Those applications are those sourcing, PO collaboration, supplier collaboration applications. But the front door to get those are ExoStar's Managed Access Gateway and our supplier management module. And that's what I'm going to dig into a little deeper, is that supplier management module, because that's what's gathering the information from these suppliers to meet your particular needs as the ExoStar customer. So what we're talking about is that ability to gather information from your supply chain, vet that information, and then give them access to the information that they need to do business with you. And I'm going to dive into that application to give you a feel for what that actually looks like. So I've got that application running here. So this is ExoStar's supplier management module. We used to call this our onboarding module. We haven't updated this particular instance of it yet, but these are synonymous, if you will. What you see from the buyer side when you first come into the application is that dashboard of how your current supply chain is doing against your requirements. You see that the organizations have different states, whether they're compliant or non-compliant, and then whether or not they've onboarded. And onboarded in this case means that they've been given access to applications. And to get that information, you're going to send them forms and gather that information from them. You're going to send those forms through an approval process on your side. And that approval process it can be one person, it can be a group of people, or it can be a number of different individuals on your side. So for some of these forms, it might be a cybersecurity form that needs just your CISO's office to approval. It might be a basic intake form that also includes some financial and some legal information. So you want those folks to approve that supplier as well. When you send out these forms, you can set that approval workflow. You can assign that individual approval to different individuals in your organization. And then the form will sequentially go through those different folks to get that approval flowing. Now, you can also see that we've got the compliance risk spelled out here, whether or not a particular organization, in this case, ExoStar LLC is one of the suppliers. It's currently compliant, but its NIST form expires in 60 days. We've emailed them that we need them to update this, and the way we did that was directly here from the application itself. So we looked at the supplier actions. We wanted to email them. We updated this, or we took a particular action and we wanted to email them. We wanted to proceed, and this is going to send to our point of contact with that particular supplier. It's going to actually, this is the person from our company who sent the email, right? So this is from my account. This is to that contact that we have at our supplier, and then we're going to type in a message. Add my signature block, and I send that out. And then I would have updated the action and say, okay, I emailed that, I update that, and then I see that I emailed that person. Now, the system itself is also prompting these things. It doesn't rely on that human intervention because the system does have what I typically call those nag emails, right? 30 days before this form expires, it's going to send an email to the organization and the contacts that previously sent this out to resubmit. And then it's going to increase in frequency the closer we get to the deadline. Now, we also have that ability to quickly look and see if an organization, has a particular score or something like that that we need to. Now, I was having problems with this feature before today's thing. I reported it to my team. It still doesn't work, and I apologize for that. So we do have a scoring system with the cybersecurity forms that are sent out. And when I pull up the supplier name, I choose the NIST 800-171 form. It would have typically given me that form, data, and the score around each of the different control families. Not quite sure why it's not displaying right now, and I apologize for that. But it does that for both the NIST 800-171 form and the cybersecurity risk assessment form as well. That just gives us that quick glance at the compliance status or that particular cybersecurity score for that customer. Now, the way we're gathering that out information is we're sending requests to those different suppliers. We're sending them a link to a form that they're going to complete, and then we're going to gather that information back. We're doing that typically through either an individual organization that we want to find, and we can either do this individually or we can do this in groups. If we're doing it in groups, we're going to do it from a campaign. So to do a campaign, we're going to launch a new campaign. We're going to give it a name. We're doing this one. You can do these either by organization or by individual user. I'm going to choose this as an organization one. Now, you can upload a CSV to kick off this campaign. And if you're not quite sure what that format's like, you can download that template and then fill out that spreadsheet with that information and then upload that. If you've got a system of your own, you can download a CSV from your organization, get it in the right format, and then upload it as well. I went ahead and downloaded the template before this session. I put in a campaign. I browse that, and then I'm going to go ahead and upload that form. that you can see it successfully uploaded that campaign. This is the one I just went through, right? And now it's going through and it's basically searching for those organizations, seeing if they're already part of the ExoStar community. If it is, it's going to go ahead and send them that information that I want to gather. And then it's going to, walk through that approval process that I've designated for that particular action. Those actions are going to then subscribe those things, those organizations to particular applications that I want to give them access to, or I can, assign them a particular form, right? So in this case, this is a campaign that I sent earlier. So for these 4 total new suppliers, I want them to say, can't find it. Sorry about that. Again, not quite sure what's going on with my system right now. I apologize. But I would have been able to see the forms that I've got here in the system, select that form, and then send that form to them to go ahead and start collecting that information. I'd then be able to track as each of those organizations complete that form. So you see, I sent a number of forms are currently in a pending state. As these organizations complete these forms, I'm going to see that status, and I'm going to be kept up to date on them completing the information. Then it's going to come back to me to get approved. And then once I approve it, right, those things will be completed. And they'll be part of my organization. And I'll then be able to keep track of them. Again, seeing their compliance with my particular requirements. Now, a couple things to keep in mind. You can also do custom reports. There's a custom report engine to allow you to gather information across, create those ad hoc reports, save those as then saved reports, and then also share those across the organization. We have some standard forms that are available, but then you can also use a custom form editor to create your own. Right, so you can create a new form and send that and use that. You can also clone existing forms and send those out. So this gives you a lot of flexibility to either use those standard forms, and we've got 4 of those in the system itself. We've got a cybersecurity risk form, a NIST 800-171 form. Those are around those cybersecurity risks. We have a basic intake form, a conflict minerals form, and then again, that forms editor for you to create custom ones, take those ones we have and add additional fields to create your own flavor of that as well. So all of this is allowing you to further vet those organizations and then keep up to date on their status and their compliance with your particular requirements, and then giving them access to the information that you want to, or the systems that you want to provide for them as part of your overall supply chain. Now, as I mentioned, this leverages that ExoStar community. If the supplier you want to invite isn't found in the ExoStar community, then this will also kick off that invitation for them to join. It's going to let them know that they have that you and your company have requested information from them. When they click on that link, it's going to ask them to register their username and password to get access to that. That's going to kind of kick off their introduction into the ExoStar network. Then once you vet them, then they become part of the network once you've given them that access into it. Now, for you as either a supplier or a buyer within the defense industrial base, and maybe you're both in certain cases, ExoStar has a number of solutions that can help you with your overall supply chain, not only in granting access to it and vetting of those organizations, but also providing those supply chain portals. That's ExoStar's supply line application. This provides you that collaborative PO ability to allow your supply chain to see what POs are currently in flight, allows them to share with you when they're going to deliver those, allows them to ask you for ASNs and things like that before they want to, or before they ship, or as they complete their orders, and then ship those to you. On the other side, if you want to find out your demand without having to go to each of those individual supply chain portals, ExoStar is an application called Demand Line, which will proactively go out and in an automated fashion gather those demand signals from each of those different supply chain portals and save you that manual effort and return those demand signals to you automatically. So then you could, know what changes in demand have occurred, create your orders, and get those into your ERP systems as quickly and easily as possible. So as I mentioned, we did get a couple questions before today's sessions. So number one, what if I have different information I want to collect from my suppliers? Well, that's why we provide that form editor in there. As I mentioned, we've got 4 basic forms that we're providing as part of the solution. That includes a basic intake form, but there may very well be additional information that you want. Recognize that. So you can either clone those existing forms and add additional fields and functions that you want to gather from those, or you can create a whole new form to gather other information or from other areas that you want to. It includes things like the ability to, drop in different kinds of fields that you want to gather, be it single select, multi-select, free text. Also allows you to build in conditional logic. Hey, if I answer this question yes, then go ahead to this question. If you answer A, B, and this, then please display additional choices down, in the next question, and that kind of conditional logic as well. So all of those things are possible there to gather the information that you need from your supply chain. Then how do you support an approval process to determine if any of my suppliers is compliant? That is, so as you send out the forms, you get to choose that approval workflow. That can be from 1 to 5 individuals across your organization. They can be in different groups. Depending on the information that you're gathering, the compliance person or individual or group that you want to be able to validate that information, and then they give them the ability to approve or not approve that. If they don't approve that or they want additional information, there is a way for them to say not approve and then give a reason why they're sending it back. And then that form will become iterative between them and the supplier. And then I think I answered number 3 as well already, but what if my suppliers are not part of the ExoStar network? That's okay, because this will actually invite them as part of the overall process to become part of the ExoStar network. We'll kick off that higher level validation. They'll also send you the additional information that you need to determine whether or not you want to work with them. So everybody, I want to thank you for attending today's session. Hopefully this gave you the information you needed. If not, please reach out to us and we'd be more than happy to answer those questions. Thanks again, and I look forward to talking to you at a future date. Have a great day.